Hi, friends. Today is week 2 into my deep dive into counterpoint, trying to integrate real counterpoint into my improvisation. And just thought I'd make a short video to share where I'm at with this journey. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're not, you'll know that I have some content where I share some ideas about things I'm working on, things that I think people might find some use for. And this is one of those. I started last week with a video about trying to incorporate real counterpoint into my improvisations, and that was inspired mostly from playing some classical music. And I'll link that video here if you want to check that out. It's kind of a precursor to this. But I figured I'd start with today. It's been a couple of weeks, my second week now of working on this stuff a bit, and to share some ideas of where I'm at. But before getting directly into that, I thought I'd try to clarify a little bit about some of the approach and why I want to do this. So in most of my playing, and I think in many of us in the improvised guitar world, we think in terms of chords and scales, and of course usually in a traditional sense of improvising or comping, and sometimes a combination. And we might have maybe particularly in solo settings where we want to portray a wider array of colors from the music, and we could use juxtapositions of registers and things to sort of simulate this sort of counterpoint. So like, for example, the tune Blue and Green, hopefully you know this tune. So basically melody with chords underneath it, right? And that's a pretty common approach that we all take. Sometimes, at least in my playing, I've tried to, when I get to the improvisation, to sort of simulate a counterpoint where maybe the concept being suggesting lines in different registers, something like this. While one sustains, the other one moves. Kind of. So that's another thing that a lot of players tend to do. And what I'm trying to do different from that now, and I'm at the very beginning stage, is to do real counterpoint, right? To have lines that are clear, like two separate lines that sort of implies like two different people playing. And I'm finding this to be very challenging. Particularly on the guitar. You could think of the logistics on a piano where you got two hands that can be separated, and of course there's complexities there, but visually it's very clear to be able to see those things as separate entities. But on the guitar it's quite difficult, where we're going to play both, attack with the right hand, whether we're picking or playing with the fingers or a combination, and then switching fingerings. This gets very, very challenging quickly. In that first video I linked earlier, you might want to check out for some very basic ideas about how to get around some of this stuff with scales. So after a week of messing with this, another thing I've come to is really trying to simplify, to get to just some very basic concepts to bring out that separation of voices. So what I've been doing is coming up with these little melodies that I can play and move around a little bit to try to maintain that separation. So here's one. I'm going to play in the key of G. It's in 3, and it's just a very simple scalar melody. This is the lower part, and I'm going to play this descending down the scale. Just descending all the way diatonically down, and that's the lower voice. The upper voice, which stays on the high string, is going to be counter to that, just again stepwise for the most part, and it just keeps doing this descending. But when you put them together, that's where the challenge is, right? Here's them together. Okay, so not the most musical thing, but hopefully what I'm getting from that is that clarity of line, to be able to hear the bottom and the top as independent voices. So taking these little fragments has been useful. I'm finding this useful. But as an improviser, really what I want to do is use this idea a little bit more broadly. So the other thing I've been experimenting with is just taking that fragment and just working through some different chord scales with it. Like, what if we took G melodic minor, which is very similar. The only note difference is the B moves to a B flat, but that's going to cause some changes in fingering and things. So this is what that might sound like. So, challenging. Again, the thing I'm getting from this is that clarity of this, the separation of the voices is very, very difficult. So the possibilities are many on the guitar, being this grid as opposed to a very linear approach like a piano. This grid approach causes lots of challenges, but there's some, to me, I'm finding there's a lot of room here, a lot of things to explore that could be very, very useful. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I have some other things I'm working on. I'm quite not ready to share, but as soon as I am, I'll do that. So hopefully you can get some uses from this.